we are officially back. I do apologize about not having a show last week. Dom was under the weather. I ran into a couple things that caught me busy, but we are back. Once again, I am Johnny Samp. Alongside me, Dom D'Angelo, the voice of Notre Dame Academy, and we are in level 4 of the playoffs here this week, Dom, and both of our teams still in contention here. This is a great position to be in, I guess, for both teams. And let's talk a little bit about it. But how are you feeling this week? How are things going? And how's everything with the football side of things going?
I'm feeling much better. It's good to see you. To your point, both Notre Dame and Bayport are still trucking along. Both had impressive wins last week, which was really nice to see for a show standpoint. So things are busy, but that means busy means good, right? Business is booming, as they say, right?
I guess so. Yeah, both schools still in the playoffs in level 4, which is really kind of a credit to the Northeast Wisconsin's football kind of area district, I guess, schools football performance. But they've looked really well in these few contests that they have left, and they've looked well throughout the whole season. Obviously, Notre Dame running on that undefeated streak, which is quite impressive. Bayport just has that one loss, and that was to West Superior. Now it's questionable if that was, the guy was down, but we're not going to go into that right now. I can always go into that. But let's get started. Why don't we? It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show, ladies and gentlemen. A couple teams knocked off here this week in our area and everywhere else. But Notre Dame takes down Grafton 23-6. And excuse me if I'm wrong, but this was kind of a game for Christian Collins. A little bit.
Yeah, just a tad. He on top of being the main bell cow in the backfield, he also almost had as many passing yards as the starting quarterback did. So, 42 attempts on the ground. I mean, it's no secret that they're trying to wear the treads out for final couple weeks here. So, 322 yards, 3 scores on the ground, and then the play of the night was kind of trick play that they went into where he actually it was a wildcat formation where he threw a pass that ended up in the arms of James Flanagan for 22 yards and a touchdown. So Christian Collins we've said it throughout the course of this year, he was kind of Mr. Everything for this Notre Dame team, and they're going to need another superhuman effort. They've got La Crosse Logan on Friday in an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, a credit to him. He was on a show with us. He's been an active part of the show since we got going here, and he continues to be really good. I'm wondering if his cleat spikes are starting to wear down a little bit with that many carries and that many yards. But let's go through it a little bit. So Max Pierce, who was also on the show with us, was 2 for 4 with 32 yards. Really not anything too impressive there, but we know Max Pierce as being a consistent quarterback. He's not going to turn over the ball. He's going to play a consistent football game, and he keeps that brand going. Now, Christian Collins, he had 42 carries, as you mentioned, 322 yards, and 3 TDs. 3 TDs. Phenomenal performance from him, and really, I mean, a credit to the coaching staff and the offensive line. We got to give a big credit to. I haven't heard much from them. But that offensive line being able to make holes for him because he's not able to run the ball if there's no holes in front of him. And it's really a kind of resounding win when you win with so much running involved. It's, there was the trick play and everything else, but the running game was obviously the forefront of the offense. And when you tally 322 yards on that, I mean, how do you stop that?
It's difficult. We've kind of documented it with a few teams in our area this year about how dominant their ground game has been, and you really, that was something that I was interested to see as the season kind of kept progressing, was how the offensive line would gel, and it's really, I would say, probably since the regular season finale against Oshkosh North, it's really stepped up and played really well. So, to your point, Collins averaged just shy of 8 yards a carry. They kept Max Pierce pretty clean for the most part. So, that's huge when you're able, especially as the weather keeps getting colder this time of year. It's huge to be able to just lean on those guys up front to give you some push.
And let's talk a little bit about it. I forgot to mention James Flanagan, obviously a phenomenal player, a guy we really want to get on this show. Of course, we're always going to talk about that. 3 catches, 54 yards, and 1 TD. He continues to be put into that offense, and I know back in the regular season, late in the regular season, you were questioning why they weren't using him more, and now it seems like they are kind of using him more and getting him more involved in that offensive scheme with the Tritons, and that's good to see, especially in playoff football, and it's working really well. So
Yeah,
he's making a big impact.
yeah, he's looked really good. He's looked really good all season. In to your point, I think it was after it was a game. It was a game after the Menasha game. I don't quite remember uh what team they played off the top of my head, but there's definitely been more of an effort to get him the ball the last couple of weeks, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor too. Uh, Touchdowns in the first 3 games of the postseason so far, so he's a stud. Everyone knows that he's the big play guy that you got to worry about in the passing game, and he's now on a big stage able to showcase what he can do because for the majority of this year, it's been defense, and rightfully so. He had 2 tackles for loss in this game, but offensively is where he can be a real game changer, and he has been for the first 3 weeks of the postseason.
Yeah, and I mean, credit to him. I am fixing my camera a little bit just to make it so it's no more clear. There we go. And everything else, he's been a real credit to this team. Obviously, I believe he's a Notre Dame commit and going to go from Notre Dame Academy to the university. So good, congratulations to him, and congratulations to the whole team. They've been playing phenomenal football, keeping things competitive, and really winning out. I mean, they haven't lost. They haven't even been, I mean, they've been close to a loss early in the season, but they've managed to find ways to win, and that's what you want to see. Now let's just take a brief look at the bracket here and see who they got. So they got La Crosse Logan coming up, and on the other side of the bracket it is Catholic Memorial and Wisconsin Lutheran. So then let's first talk about here real quick. Obviously, probably going to take NDA. I think you would get your head chopped off. It would be like the French Renaissance if you didn't. So who you got for that Notre Dame and La Crosse Logan game?
Yeah, I think to your point, just so I'm able to go to class these next couple days. Yeah, I'll be taking Notre Dame. An interesting game because La Crosse Logan, they score a lot of points. They scored 51 in their previous game against Medford. They average about 35 on the year, but they gave up 48 points. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic for them. The main guy that you got to worry about for them is Bradley Check, their quarterback, who this looks like a Christian Collins stat line in the game last week: 36 rushing attempts, 285 yards, 4 scores on the ground, and then you accompany that with he was 9 of 13 through the year, 185 yards, 2 scores, and no interceptions. So that's the guy that you got to stop defensively. It'll be interesting because I remember last year Notre Dame went into the level 4 matchup with Rice Lake feeling pretty good about things, and most people remember how that kind of finished, and it was kind of a similar. I haven't watched La Crosse Logan this year, but just kind of based on the numbers, they're going to be very heavy, I would suspect, with read options and Wildcat, maybe some different things going on there because they can run it so well. So they got to be ready for that. They got to be ready to adjust to that if and when that does happen. But I still think that at the end of the day, Notre Dame is just, they've looked so impressive all season. So I kind of can't pick against them at this point. It was kind of what we were saying with Kimberly earlier in the season.
Yeah,
You
and
kind of
then they
just
fell apart.
yeah, you kind of just until you actually see it happen. I don't think you can pick against them. So I will pick the Tritons to head to the state championship.
Yeah, and I'm also going to pick Notre Dame. I got a lot of people that look at me and go, "Hey, are you Johnny Samp? Oh, I'm from Notre Dame Academy. I heard about your little show." So I'm not going to try to tick them off, and I'll just go Notre Dame. I do think, actually, like speaking truly, I think Notre Dame has a very good team. They've been to this situation before. They know how to play in it, and they're going to be a solid roster going into that contest and likely heading to the state championship. But then we got to flip it to the other side of the bracket. We got Catholic Memorial, Wisconsin Lutheran playing each other. Who do you got in this one? It's pretty interesting to see just what teams kind of pop out because Wisconsin Lutheran was a 3 seed, and then Catholic Memorial to begin things was a 1 seed. So is the 3 seed gonna get that upset, or are you taking the 1 seed?
This one's going to be interesting. This was just looking at the 4 games that were played in Division 3 last week. The only one that was a blowout was the Notre Dame game. Catholic Memorial played against a very good Mount Horeb team and won a nail biter 17-14. And then Wisconsin Lutheran was able to stray off New Berlin West 23-14. So I think, quite honestly, just kind of looking at the numbers here, Catholic Memorial 10-2 on the year, 35 points a game. That's been kind of just kind of walking around. That's kind of been the team that I've heard a lot about from the Notre Dame football guys I'm talking about, just because they want that matchup a lot. Um, but Wisconsin Lutheran, man, like they've had a nice year. I'm kind of looking at some numbers right now. I think they might pull this off. I'm gonna go with Wisconsin Lutheran and a little bit of an upset here. Can you even call it an upset if you get to level 4? You're just a certified good team at that point, right?
Pretty much. I mean, pretty much.
So I'll take Wisconsin Lutheran over Catholic Memorial to play Notre Dame next week for the Division III championship.
And I'm going to hop on that same bus just because I want to see two more local Wisconsin Lutheran located in the Fond du Lac area. And then Notre Dame, obviously, right here in Green Bay. But I want to see a kind of local matchup in the state championship. Would be more fun. So I'm going to go Wisconsin Lutheran for this one. And we got the Lutherans versus the Catholics in the final. Yep, had to do it. Had to do it there, Dom. Got a smile out of you. You know what?
Yeah.
I mean, it was building. You had Catholic Memorial.
Yeah,
It would have been the Catholics for the Catholics or the Catholics versus the Lutherans.
I say you were playing to it. That was good.
Yep. So we had to go with the Catholics versus the Lutherans in the final there. Two more local teams, and going to be a really fun contest with that one. So that, I mean, would be essentially, the championship, and it'd be really fun to see what happens in that contest and see how both these teams play out. I think Christian Collins is going to have a huge game in that one, but we'll save it for next week, who we think is going to win. Obviously, I think I know which side you're going, but we'll see what happens there. And then we'll move on here. Just taking a look at Neenah. Neenah, they're officially done for the season. They lost to Muskego 21-7. Muskego, a really solid team, really kind of a powerhouse down there. Van Evenhoven 8 for 19, 89 yards, 3 interceptions in the contest. So not a very good showing from him. Grant Dean, 19 carries, 96 yards, and 1 fumble. So a lot of things going wrong for those Rockets. And then finally, Van Beek, he had 2 catches and 38 yards in the contest. So Neenah officially out. One of those kind of upset teams that we had early going, and it all started with the Kaukauna game. Upsetting Kaukauna, and then they got Kimberly twice. So, I mean, it's been a good run for them. So, congratulations, all of them. Any thoughts on that Neenah game and them officially being out of the playoffs?
Yeah, their season really started, I think, with that first Kimberly game that they played that they were able to win 29-28. So, in this game, Muskego kind of jumped on them early, 14-0 after the first quarter. Credit to Neenah, they fought back in it. It was only a 7-point game at halftime. But, I think those turnovers really killed them. And Van Evenhoven had done a pretty good job all season of not turning the ball over. Grant Dean fumbling, that that never
That doesn't
happens.
happen, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. So, defensively, I think they played, relatively well. They forced a fumble themselves, which was big. I think they had a couple sacks in this game. So, I'm just kind of looking at the box score right now. Luke Jung was all over the field, 20 tackles. Holy cow! So, it was kind of it was not the prettiest game by any means. It just kind of at the end of the day, just those turnovers really hurt the Rockets there, and then Muskego was able to kind of run it better in the second half. It looks like Jack Libish had a big game, 210 yards. So, Neenah had a really good season though. There's nothing to be ashamed of there, and had a really nice run in the postseason over some big time schools.
And a really fun team to watch, I have to say. Giving a lot of credit to Neenah. You guys played heck of a game. I don't want to say the profanity. Watch your profanity. But you guys really play really good football. Congratulations to all you on what you guys did this season, coming in as kind of an underdog since the beginning and just showing up and playing football, taking down Kimberly, the evil empire that we've seen for all those weeks, and really kind of giving us some fun here. Dom D'Angelo and I were both at that first game, that homecoming game in Neenah, and that was quite an exciting contest. But it was great to see you guys play good football, and we wish you best of luck in the off season. Obviously, most players are probably moving on to new sports, which is totally fine. But we'll see what happens there in that D1 side of things. We'll talk a little bit about it further once we get to Bayport. But first, let's move on to Kaukauna. So Kaukauna drops the ball against West Appear, losing 14-20. And I don't know if you can necessarily say drops the ball, but West Appear definitely, they're a powerhouse team. I hate to say it. They are. I mean, I hate to say it. Hate to give them that kind of credit because I know I'm going to finally going to get that backup quarterback give me a smile and say, you said we were good. And I'm like, yeah, maybe so. But let's talk about it. Brown Schaefer, 10 for 22, 121 yards, 1 TD. Aiden Reardon, 28 carries, 86 yards, and 2 TDs. And then Parker Shook, 5 catches, 95 yards. Just not finding a way to win against West Appear seems to be the problem all season. It seems like they had a good game plan coming in 14, losing only by 6 points. I mean, no dismissal to them. Kaukauna played a good game, and they kept them close because West Appear is averaging over 40 points a game typically. And I believe they came off their last win, like, really insane numbers. So they kept them in a close contest. But unfortunately, West Appear did come out with I could say fortunately for West Appear, we're kind of cheering for both sides here in this one. It was a local contest. But what are your thoughts on that game and the Galloping Ghosts season ending?
Yeah, it was really close. I watched that final play. I couldn't quite tell if the receiver caught it at the goal line. It was tackled a yard short, or kind of what happened there. It was one of those typical Kaukauna West Appear kind of crazy finish plays. This was, when you look at the numbers coming into the season, this was every bit of a defensive battle for these two teams. On the West Appear side, they had an interception, they had a sack, and on the Kaukauna side, they were able to kind of contain Patrick Grayson, which is no small task by any means, and they were able to kind of keep the run game under control. Evan Ott had 114 yards, but on 25 attempts, so 4.6 yards a carry. It's not what he's been averaging most of this year. So Kaukauna this entire year has really impressed me from a lot of standpoints. You can tell they're really, really well coached by Coach Binsfield down there. And, just came up a little bit short. It's kind of been the story of their season a little bit. Unfortunately, they were going to finish the year kind of a weird record, 9-3 overall. They lost week 1 at Notre Dame in a game that they very easily could have won. They did lose to Kimberly. And then in this one just came up just a tad bit short. And, it's just kind of how the ball bounced for them. But they also, had a really impressive season. And I, quite honestly, just kind of looking at the bracket here, they're in D2. I don't know if anybody is going to give, just the way that they've looked, West Appear a better game than Kaukauna did this past week. That was really, really tight all the way to the finish.
Yeah. And I think Kaukauna also had a little familiarity, obviously, with West Appear. They knew what they were going to bring. But a team that I will talk here first about West Appear and who they're playing next, because I think this next team can give them a real test. I think Rice Lake is one of those teams that are a really good, solid team. They've been in the names of the state tournament for a number of years now. They consistently play good ball. And if there's a team that I could see upsetting possibly West Appear, even though I don't believe it would be truly an upset, because I believe Rice Lake was the number... Excuse me here. Let's just see here if I can read.
2 seed.
2 seed. There we go. Yep. 2 seed. So it would be an upset for, it would be an upset for Kaukauna. West Appear. Man, I'm all over the place today, Dom. Caught me on a bad day. Kaukauna was the 1 seed in that bracket. But anyways, back to West Appear. Let's talk about them here real quick. We did talk about Kaukauna losing. Their season's over. But West Appear wins. They get 2014 win. Grayson 14 for 21, 203 yards, and 2 TDs in the contest. Then looking on the run game, 25 carries for Ott and 114 yards. And then Nixon if excuse me if I mispronounce that, I couldn't necessarily Judea Nixon, 4 catches, 72 yards. But they take on Rice Lake, who is a very good team from the western part of the state, and they're always in that contest. They had to get through New Richmond. They did that. New Richmond was one of the higher ranked teams in the state as well. And Rice Lake continues to roll on. I think we may see a pretty close contest, if not an upset here, with that Rice Lake coming to top or playing West Superior here.
It should be close. Rice Lake is the reigning D3 champions,
That's
and then
what
with
I mean. Yep.
yeah, with the WIA rule, they moved up to Division 2 this year and have not missed a beat. On the season, this year I believe they were 10-2. Don't quote me on that. I'm double checking it as we speak. And yeah, 10-2 so far. So another really good season for them. They beat New Richmond 28-6. So same score as Notre Dame. Have a lot of similar characteristics that Notre Dame does in that D3, really good ground game. And when you're playing against as high octane an offense like West Superior, you're going to have to be able to control the clock. And, Kakana was able to do that to a certain degree. What kind of hurt them a little bit was third downs. They kind of had a little bit of an issue there, it looks like. So Rice Lake's got a real legitimate chance to take down West Superior, but they're going to need to definitely control the clock. And if you're West Superior, you're going to have to. As someone who's seen Rice Lake in person, you got to meet their physicality because they will run it down your throat if you're not careful. They do this this formation where they've got their quarterback, they've got a fullback, and 2 running backs in the backfield, and it's kind of just pick which one you want for like a run, a zone run. So you got to be prepared for that. Coach Grayson will have them ready to go. But, you got to be on your toes against that Rice Lake team because they are really, really talented.
Yeah, and physicality is something like of a brand over there on the western part of the state, I would say. Really kind of couple physical teams over there. I got a couple cousins over there. They're pretty big guys, not as so. Maybe they feed them something different over there. Who knows? It might be in the water, like we said before.
Yeah.
Just in the water there. But Rice Lake, I think, has a really good chance of possibly throwing the West Pier season off. But I also know West Pier, as talented as they come, they're going to have to be led by Grice. And I think Evan Ott's going to have a big game, and that defense going to have to play shutdown defense. And you did mention controlling the clock, which I think is a really good point, because if the defense gets, say, Rice Lake stays on offense, they do control that clock and they keep things moving with that power run kind of offense they do. It's whoever's ball at what time. And if they can get attrition start set in and get that defense a little tired, I know they aren't West Superior's not the biggest defense, like size-wise, but they do have good size there. So that may be a factor in the contest if they can control the clock. But let's take some picks here, Dom. We got 2 more. Let's see if we can get at least to 50% here on the day. And, get the correct picks here. Let's see what our percentage is next week when we talk about it and have our championship show, which will be a lot of fun. So we got Rice Lake and West Superior. Who are you taking?
Oh, man. This is the one that I think is going to be the toughest out of the games we're going to pick today. I'm going to go with Rice Lake. I think they advance, they move up a division, and it doesn't matter because that program is as well-oiled a machine as you're going to get. Coach Hill is a phenomenal coach. He knows how to win. So I'm going to take Rice Lake in a close one. I do think it's going to be really close, not to rub salt in the wound. I think it's going to be Bayport, West Superior close, come down to a field goal. But I think Rice Lake's going to just squeak it out.
All right. Well, that leaves me with a decision here. Do I want to go with Rice Lake with Dom, or do I want to go with West Superior and make a couple people happy around the area? And guess what, folks? I'm going to go with the Phantoms, baby.
Oh.
Let's get it done, Phantoms. Let's get to that championship and let's win us something. I mean, I have a lot of friends over there playing for that team, and it would be nice to see if they can get to that championship game and eventually win one here. But I'm going to go West Superior. I think the Phantoms are the real deal. Evander Holyfield, if I want to go with a rhyme, real deal, Evander Holyfield. But nonetheless, I think West Superior gets this one, and I think they can move forward into the final championship game of the season. But then let's flip it to the other side of the bracket. Let's go with, we got Badger and Waukesha West. Who are you taking?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Badger. They've looked really dominant all season. Um, I don't see any really flaws with that team. I know that Racine Horlick gave them a close game, 28-27, but a 42-22 win over a really talented Milton team. That's good stuff. They've got it rolling right now. So my as we sit here today, it is 5:15 on the 12th of November when we're taping this. My Division Two championship game is going to be Rice Lake and Badger.
And, excuse me, I did say Waukesha, but it's Wauwatosa West. But let's take a look here. I'm going to go, I think, as well on that side with Badger. I think Badger's a solid program. Not to necessarily side with things because I like to make things fun, but I got to also pick the right picks that I think is going to win. But I think Badger's going to get the win now. Wauwatosa West, prove us wrong. I don't know a ton about those two schools, but I know Badgers has been a powerhouse all season long. Their name has been in the top rankings in the state, but I'm going to go Badger as well. We have a general consensus there. And then we'll move to D1, but first we're going to talk about Bayport. Bayport takes down the Marquette University Schools, winning 35-21 in the contest. Matt Stevens, 14 for 24, 187 yards, 1 TD. Brady Moon, 32 carries, 206 yards, and 3 scores. And Sawyer Torp, 3 catches, 56 yards. They look to play DC Everest at Titan Stadium this week. Now, Bayport's been good all season, Dom. Does their luck end?
I kind of don't think so. DC Everest is the Cinderella story, which maybe they shouldn't be. They've, as a 7 seed, they've ran off 3 straight here in really impressive fashion. So, I've been really impressed. I know as a Notre Dame guy, I'm not allowed to say this, but I've been impressed with Bayport since about week 2, since they got things back and rolling. Their ground game has really impressed me. It's now that Matt Stevens is kind of getting more and more involved. He's not afraid to run it, which is important. Got to be careful with the football this week. Did have an interception, and you know that DC Everest is going to take advantage of that. So you got to be careful with the football this week. But defensively, they've been really, really solid all season, with a number of really key pieces over there. So I think Bayport will advance. I do think it's going to be close again, 1 score potentially here, but they just have looked so comfortable these last couple weeks, and I think that really speaks to how they played against the Marquette schools this past week.
Yeah, and you mentioned Brady Moon. Now I wonder if they have a nickname, cool nickname, like the astronaut or something like that.
Yeah,
Moon Man, something like that. Skywalker could be cool.
that'd be cool. Maybe we should come up with a name for them before we get. If they advance next week, we'll reveal a
Maybe
nickname for him.
maybe we ask around, see if he has a cool nickname. Now it's if we ask his teammates, it'll be something lame like
Yeah, it's gonna.
yeah. We want something cool. We don't
Yeah.
know the guy yet. He could come on the show. Moon Man, we'll call him. Brady Moon's gonna have a big game, or the Man on the Moon. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's good.
Man on the Moon, Brady Moon, is going to have a big game. I think DC Everest was a team that now a number of years back when my senior year took us out of the playoffs, and they are a really solid school. But I think this year Bayport does get the win. Bayport's just a overloaded offense. They took down the number 1 seed in their bracket at Marquette, and I think they do get the win here. Not to say it's a general. If I was going to say a scoreboard, I think Bayport gets a full touchdown score ahead of DC Everest. I just think the Pirates are really that good and well coached of a school. It's going to be a short drive for them over to Oshkosh, about an hour. DC Everest is going to have a little bit more. It's going to be about 2 hours probably in that ballpark at least. But yeah, I think Bayport makes it to the championship again, and they get the chance to claim the crown here this year. And it'll be interesting to see with that defense on Bayport being such a sizable defense, what they can do against DC Everest. Obviously, they are ranking high in the defensive stats, including sacks and picks, and they are a really good squad. But then on the other side of the bracket, Dom, we got Muskego and Mukwonago. So two teams very familiar with each other, very good squads. I know
Yep.
what team I'm going to go with, but let's have you pick first.
I'm gonna go with McGuanago in this one. I just think that they're playing a little bit better as of right now than Muskego is. They have a better record on the year. I know last week wasn't pretty, 17-6 over Arrowhead, but I just think that they're a touch better than Muskego has shown to be this year. 8-4. They got to play Nina for the second time. I think that helped them last week, to be honest. They did play in week one, so I'm gonna go with McGuanago.
And I'm going to go to the flip side of that. I'm going to go Muskego.
Okay.
Muskego is a solid roster. They did drop early in the season because they did have a bad loss. But they seem to be torching back. They took out Franklin, regarded as the number one team in the state. And they continue to move forward and play good football. So I got Muskego going to the championship. Now, I don't have it decided whether Bayport does get the win over Muskego yet. We'll save that for next week, ladies and gentlemen, so be sure to tune in. But I'm going to go a Bayport Muskego. Now, this is a game that's already been played before in the championship, and Bayport has lost in that contest. So I think Bayport gets a little redemption, possibly. But we're going to reveal that next week, and we're going to have some fun doing it. Another team. So I think that that's going to be that final playoff championship here. And then just another team I want to give a big shout out to is in Division 6, Bondwell, a team nearby us, probably a 30-minute drive. They are playing Grantsburg in the D6 semifinals, so good luck to them and the Bears. Bondwell Bears playing good football and keeping things going. Dom, any other news that you want to mention, talk about, get off your chest here? Get something off your chest. Let's hear it.
I'm excited for basketball season to begin. I know I've got some project in the works right now with. If anyone listening has ever heard of the company W7 Productions, I've worked with them the last couple of years. We've got some stuff planned for this basketball season. So the first games are next week, I think, already, aren't they? Something like that.
I thought they had to wait like until all the games were over.
I don't know, because I think I saw that there were games on the 19th already, which is a week from today. So
Well, I'm more
whatever
excited
whatever it
anyways.
is.
Anyways, about the hockey season.
Yes,
High
he's
school
coming
hockey.
too. Yep.
High school hockey is one of my favorites to watch. And I am getting back in form, ladies and gentlemen. We are hitting the gym daily and getting in shape for the pond hockey season. I think I told you a few years ago. I went to the pond puck rink and
Yeah.
I ran into a couple Notre Dame cats. And they knew me, and I knew them. And I'm like, oh, I can, we can play, And I couldn't keep up, Dom. I was too fat, and it was embarrassing. So I'm getting back in shape here. We're gonna get those power legs back and get that, get everything going. You're gonna see it. You're gonna hear kids at school be like, damn, that Johnny Samp kid that you do the podcast with scores a lot of goals on the
His age.
yeah,
A baller.
just a hockey player,
Oh, yeah.
and so we're trying to get in shape here. It's a little bit harder now that I don't have the high schooler, energy. Now,
Sure.
yeah, so it's a little bit harder. We'll see what we can do there. But yeah, trying to get back into the shape. It's a good thing, good motivation
Good.
too
Yeah.
to get in shape. But yeah, things are good here, and we got Dom. We got one more week of high school football, and then we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to think that we started this in, what am I thinking, week 2, week 3, somewhere
Something like
around
that.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're already on state championship week is next week, so it's been a crazy year with a lot of fun games going on. So
Now we've got to talk here how we want to design our shows moving into wintertime. Just
Sure.
given that we got a couple sports going on, a couple major sports, I would like to highlight a couple of them. fall, football's typically the biggest sport, so we just kind of hit that. But once we get in that wintertime discussion, talking about those other kind of sports that we have going on in our area. And with all the teams, we're going to have to just kind of pick a couple and go with them and try to follow along, highlight certain things. But yeah, it should be fun, ladies and gentlemen, and we should have a great show. I do want to give a shout out to all the teams continuing to play this week in that championship level, playing in the semifinal here, and then moving forward to the championship next week. So a big credit to Notre Dame, West Pier, Bayport. Am I missing any here, Dom, that are around our area? I don't think so.
No, I think that should be it. I know you mentioned
Bondwell?
Bondwell was one in D6, I believe they are.
Yep.
So yeah, 2 seed in D6. So
Yep. So a
lots
big
of good stuff.
shout out to all you guys playing great football. And we will talk about it next week. You can expect us to be back, the two talking heads that always have fun here on Talking High School Sports. But wrapping things up for a shorter show this week, that's Dom D'Angelo over to my left on the screen, and I'm Johnny Stamp. We wish you guys all the best of luck in this week's